What's up guys, in this video I'm going to be going over all the state of the game stuff so you guys don't have to watch an hour-long video to get that info. There is a lot of info, so I'll be reading it off and going back for each category and talking about the highlights if needed. I'll also be posting the summary in the description from Reddit whenever that becomes available. Okay, so first up, normalization changes. You will now be normalized to max world tier, so world tier 5. Respecting that if you got a good roll on a weapon, damage-wise, it will be shown in the normalized values. Skill power will now be whatever it is in PvE, so all of your mods and stuff will still be active. You will also have a damage decrease overall. They're changing the modifier from 70% to 40%. They're wanting to increase the amount of time it takes to get a kill, making it better reflect what it is in PvE. No more crits from hipfires. That is a PvP only change. Pretty substantial sandbox change there. 70% to 40% with the TTK, that will definitely be increased, so it'll be interesting to see how it does there. Onto some DZ changes. There will be less non-contaminated loot and more contaminated loot drops. Named bosses are going to be guaranteeing a contaminated loot drop or multiple. No more rogue cooldowns, and the tier 4 perk affecting that is now reducing the XP lost on death. Your flyout bag has now been increased to 6 items at the bottom tier, and whenever you have all the perks, it's going to be 10 items. In upcoming updates, they will be ensuring that 12 players are always present in every DZ session, and now every world tier is in the same bracket for matchmaking. They will be adding Rogue and Manhunt back into the occupied Dark Zone. They want it to have a vanilla Division 1 feel. There will be less NPC patrols, and most of the AI is now going to be at landmarks. Not all of that stuff is going to be in this title update, but that is coming in the future. NPCs are going to be dealing less damage, but have more health overall now, and DZ items will now be dropping up to 515 gear score. So the big one there is obviously the 515 items, and this is the only place in the game you're going to be able to get it. I don't really agree with that choice because some people don't like the Dark Zone at all. I personally don't mind, but I am not the populace. I would say more people dislike the DZ than like it due to not liking PvP at all. We've seen that in other games like Destiny. Though they want on to say later that this wouldn't be the only opportunity forever. It is just currently the only opportunity that you have. So there will be other places in the future to get that 515 gear. Other than that, it's just like normalization, huge overhauls, and we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. Conflict got some changes. Armor is now accurately being represented in the bars, so the little hashes or pips that they called them will now be showing what your actual armor is showing. Boosts have been nerfed by 50% across the board. Team spawns will be syncing up better so you won't be as alone, and cooldowns for skills will not be resetting on death. Not a whole lot of stuff there, but I like that boosts won't be allowing so many snowballs in games, because they were a huge issue before. They did touch on exotics to say that they would be increasing damage to all exotics across the board, but they want them to promote a different playstyle, not just do more damage. You gotta know this was specifically for the Pestilence, because it sucked, but I like that it all got buffed instead of just that. Okay, talents. This is going to be a lot of stuff, so I will link the summary in the description. As you may have noticed, I haven't been typing all this on the screen like I usually do. That's because there's literally too much info for me to realistically do it and make it cohesive and have time in my day. So, weapon talents first. Unhinged. Damage boost decreased to 20% from 25%, and handling has been decreased to 25% from 30%. Strained has been changed. The missing armor requirement has now been increased to 10% from 5%. Frenzy grants 20% weapon damage, down from 25%, and 15% rate of fire for 5 seconds, instead of 35% for 7 seconds. And for PvP, it's 15% weapon damage and 15% rate of fire for 3 seconds. Preservation, killing an enemy repairs 10% armor over 5 seconds instead of 5% over 3 seconds, and headshots improve repair to 20%. In PvP, it's 5% over 3 seconds, and headshots up to 15%. This now requires 7 defensive attributes. Spiked headshot kills now give 35% increased skill damage for 20 seconds instead of 25% for 10 seconds, and requires 5 utility instead of 3. Reformation headshot kills increase skill repair and healing by 50% for 20 seconds instead of 25% for 25 seconds, and now requires 9 utility. Whew. Okay, those were big. Strain got cut in half essentially, and I like that they're taking a stance on PvP versus PvE adjustments and not just going across the board in a lump. And it kind of feels like they want to benefit a tank and sustain player a little more now. On to the gear talents. Critical and Surgical have both had their bonuses reduced to 5% from 8%, so both the chance and the damage are lowered. Safeguard, healing bonus down from 75% to 50%, and duration from 7 to 5, and now requires 4 or less offensive. I feel like they made a mistake there because I thought it was 150% before, but I could be wrong, so that might be a little wonky. Clutch, health gain increased to 20% from 15%, while the armor was reduced from 1% to 2%. Spotter, the damage has been increased to 20% from 10% and now requires 5 utility. Kneecap, shooting an enemy in the legs now has a 15% chance to bleed instead of a 10% chance to bleed. Entrench headshots from cover now repair 10% instead of 5% of armor. That's really big. Patience, after being in cover for 5 seconds, armor repairs by 5% every 1 second instead of being in cover for 3 seconds. Starting now requires 5 seconds instead. It also requires 9 defensive attributes. Unbreakable now heals 70% of max armor, and armor kits used in the next 7 seconds are not used. In PvP, that's 25% armor healed, and armor kits in the next 7 seconds are not used. This now requires 11 defense attributes and no other talents affecting armor kits. Bloodsucker has been changed to swapping weapons within 3 seconds of a kill grants 35% weapon damage for 5 seconds instead of 25% for 10 seconds. In PvP, that's 20% for 5 seconds now, and it requires 9 offensive attributes. Berserk, 10% weapon damage for every 20% armor depleted instead of 10% for every 10% armor depleted, so it's cut it in half. 11 offensive attributes are now required, as well as using these same weapons. Bloodlust, swapping weapons within 3 seconds of a kill, now has 35% weapon damage for 5 seconds instead of 25% for 10 seconds. In PvP, swapping now grants 20% for 3 seconds. It requires 9 offensive attributes. And the Blacksmith talent, killing an enemy repairs 50% armor instead of 25%, can occur once every 15 seconds instead of 10, and requires 11 defensive attributes. So that was a lot, and it looks like they're trying to buff all that tanky stuff that everybody was wanting lately, and not so much making it mandatory to just go straight up DPS. They also went on to say that NPCs are getting overhauled in the update, so their health and damage values are being lessened, so NPCs are getting nerfed, so it won't feel nearly as necessary to have those huge damage dealing talents that we have right now. So it's going to be more in line, and hopefully, if done right, we won't notice too much in terms of a TTK difference with the nerfs versus how much health they actually have now. They went on to talk a little bit about the PTS servers, and for you PC guys, your text chat now goes out of focus when the message is sent instead of being stupid, apparently. Overall, I'm really interested in this title update 3. This will not be rolling out with the raid and will in fact be rolling out next month instead. So we've got a good bit of time before all that happens. And you PC guys can let us know about all of that, what is going on in there in the test servers. All in all, it's going to be a complete change on how builds and how the games are played. It's probably going to feel like a completely different experience if all of these perks do what they say they're going to be doing, and certainly different from the experience we've had for the past 35 days. Let me know what you guys think about all this stuff down in the comments. Like this video, it really does help me out a lot. Subscribe to the channel for future Division 2 content. With that guys, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.